Hey guys, you're chilling with Raws UK, and today I'm going to go through the different types of guitar bridge. First of all, you've got your classical or Spanish guitar. Okay, this one's got a cutout, but a lot of them don't. Right, so your bridge on here, you've got a standard wooden bridge. Can be made out of most different hardwoods, quite often mahogany is a choice. And you've got your saddle, which nowadays is made of composites, but used to be made of bone. And then your strings on these guitars are nylon and used to be animal gut. So the tension's a lot less on these. So the guitar doesn't need a truss rod or any technical bridge. So all we've got in the bridge here, it's got 6 basic holes. The strings push through, they then get wrapped around themselves, and that creates enough tension to attach the string to the guitar and keep it intact. So there's your classical bridge. Then we move on to our acoustic bridge. Now the difference with this, again this one's got a cutout, they don't all, is the steel strings. That's the biggest difference. Steel strings mean that we've now got a bit more tension. Still a standard wooden bridge. I think this one might even be rosewood. And again a composite or a nut saddle, so very similar design. But this time, instead of the holes going through the bridge on the surface, is now pushed into the body of the guitar, and the string tension is held in with these 6 pins. So the string will have a ball at the end, like most steel strings. That ball will go into the bridge, you'll then place the pin on top and push it in place, and that holds the tension. So there's your acoustic bridge. Now we start getting into our electric bridges. There's a few different types of these. So this one's probably one of the most basic standard bridges we can get. The strings this time go through the body, but they're simply pushed through from the back. These holes get thinner, so as you pull the string through, the ball then gets stuck, or bullet, depending on what you want to call it. These are then stretched over this bridge, which is a single bridge, but with 6 individual little saddles on there. Now I'm not sure how well you can see that in this light, but on the front we've got these little screws. These can be tightened or loosened to move the saddle so that our guitar can have perfect intonation. So yeah, it's a very basic bridge, but it's good. Once you've got it set up and the intonation's right, the only thing you've got to worry about is tuning it a few times when there's brand new strings on, but in general it seems to hold its tuning quite well. This one's on a Schecter Demon Series. This is the Omen with active Seymour Duncan pickups, if you're interested in what guitar it is. Okay. Next we move on to more your Strat style bridge. Again, I've got lights, but they're in a bad angle for this video, aren't they? Anyway, so this again, we come through from the back, but this time we've got a bit more going on here. This is normally covered with a plate, just like this. So our bridge is now under spring tension. So as we tighten the springs will get stretched. As we tighten the springs, you pull the bridge and the strings get stretched. So they're working off each other. They're in harmony and balance. So the good thing about this is it means that this bridge can be lifted and lowered. What that does, as you can see, the saddles are further back than the attachment. So when this lifts, the strings become more loose. They get less tension, so they become lower pitched. And again, if you were to pull the bridge down the other way, you're creating more tension in the strings, creating them to be higher pitched. So you can start to bend using a whammy bar in this hole here at the bottom. And the only difficulty is the original setup, getting the springs and the string tension together. Because as you start to tune, you're putting more tension in the strings. So it can take a while to get it in tune, but once it's there, again, relatively good. But if you start bending too much, you can start to put the guitar out of tune quite easily. So the next stage from here, we move on to a Floyd Rose. This is where things start getting a bit crazy. Again, if you look into the back, it's a very similar design in the back. This one I built myself, hence the crazy see-through acrylics. But you've got your spring tension into the back of the neck, into the back of the bridge. But this time, we've got all these fancy locks and gadgets, and the strings are actually cut. So you cut the ball end off, pushed in, and then clamped in with these little blocks and Allen clamps. Brilliant tremolo. You can get, basically it's called a tremolo because it's a floating and you can trem with it. And it's a locking system. We actually have locks on the nut end of the guitar as well, which means that when you start stretching and playing, like I was saying with the other one, it goes out of tune if you start bending too much. This one won't. As long as their locks are set properly, this one will stay in tune even once you've bent it. The only thing is, if you go too crazy, you could start to potentially break a string. But it will always go back into tune if you don't break a string. So, Floyd Rose, well-known brand as well. A floating tremolo bridge is what it's called. I'm not sure if there are many other manufacturers apart from Floyd Rose. But still, that's the name everybody seems to know. So then the next generation, Ibanez started bringing out, or Ibanez if you want, started bringing out their own bridge. Now, I remember it being called the Zero G bridge. It works off ball bearings, and it's also a floating system. So it's similar in the back here with these springs, but we can set the tension with just an Allen key instead of having to screw it in and out. It's very similar idea to a Floyd Rose, but just seems to have a nicer floating point. Okay, this guitar's got a bit of damage to it. That's my fault. I've been doing the whole Dragon Force pick it up by the tremolo bar. But yeah, again, a brilliant bridge, also a locking system. In my opinion, I actually prefer this to the Floyd Rose. I think it feels smoother. They also do the Edge series, Edge 1, 2 and 3 bridges. And the Edge 3 I had on a different Ibanez, and is also a brilliant bridge. I think I'm torn between this one and the Edge 3, but we'll see when I play a bit more. And then finally, the Evertune bridge. Now this is fairly new in the market. I mean, I'm one of very few people in England that have this on a guitar. It's made its name in the US, but it hasn't come over here that much. And beautiful bridge once again. Now this starts getting a bit more crazy in the back, but behind these 6 lines, you've just got your springs again. But this time we've got a floating tension area. So you can set the bridge. Let's try and get this light on here a bit better. So we can set this bridge so that each of these points are floating. Now what that means is if I play a note and try and bend it, I keep the exact same tune, which means you've always got perfect intonation. Now that sounds good, but what if you want to bend and shred? Now that's fine. You can set these all the way out so you can actually bend as well. So what I've got on this, I've got my low 3 and drop D set to the floating point, so they're in perfect intonation all the time. And then my high 3 strings, I've got set to the lockout so I can still get my bends. So I think Evertune bridge is an amazing invention. I think it's a brilliant bridge. There are a lot of people that don't like the idea of not being able to bend, but as you can see, you can still put that option in. And this hasn't gone out of tune having it in that state at all. So I really like the Evertune. Second favourite would have to be either the Ibanez Zero G or the Edge series, because you can proper drop those and pull them up and get these squeals like Dimebag from Pantera. And then just a standard hardtail. There's nothing wrong with a guitar that stays in tune. So yeah, I think there's all my different bridges. I told you which ones I think are my favourites, but it's all down to personal preference and how you play. So keep rocking.